This is our review for Module 6. Number 1, does each equation represent a linear function? The first one is a function. Our slope is 1/4. It doesn't matter if that's a fraction. On B, it is not a function because of the exponent there. On C, it's not a function because we've got x in the denominator underneath that 2. And on D, it is a function. Number 2, we're going to write the equation of the line that passes through those 2 points. First, we need to calculate slope. M is equal to y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1 minus a negative is really plus a positive. And we've got 12 over negative 6, so we've got a slope of negative 2. We can choose either point. I'll choose the first one. And we've got y minus 7 equals negative 2 times x minus a minus 7. But we can fix that. That's really plus 7. If we had chosen the other point, we'd have y minus a minus 5, which equals negative 2 times x minus a minus 1. Again, we will turn our minus a minus into plus a positive, and you could clean that up, but you know what I'm going for. Number 3, write the above equation in standard form. It doesn't matter which one I choose, I will get the same answer. I'll get the same line. So I think I'll choose this one here. Well, the first step will be to distribute, and then I've got, that's not an x, and then I've got y plus 5 equals negative 2x minus 2. Now we can add 2x to both sides, and we get 2x plus y plus 5 equals negative 2. Then we can subtract 5 to both sides, and finally we've got 2x plus y equals negative 7. Number 4, write an equation of a line with a slope of negative 1/2 and a y-intercept of 1/4. This is incredibly easy. Y equals negative 1/2 x plus 1/4. Number 5, a landscape service charges a customer a one-time fee plus an hourly rate of $25. For 2 hours of work, it charges $90. Write an equation that represents the situation. That first sentence is a bit tricky, but I do see an hourly rate of 25, so I know my slope is 25. The next part is an ordered pair. 2 hours pairs up with $90. And now I can write the equation. They didn't say what form. I'm going to go for slope-intercept form, which remember is y equals mx plus b. What I need to have a final answer is an m and a b, and they've given me m. But they didn't give me b, but I can temporarily plug in an x and a y and my m and solve for b. So 90 equals my slope of 25 times my x value of 2 plus b. 90 equals 50 plus b. If I subtract 50 to both sides, I find that my b, my y-intercept, is 40. So now that I have my b and I was given my m, I can write my final equation. Y equals 25x plus 40. In part number 6, how much does the landscape service charge for 8 hours of work? Well, now we're going to plug in 8 for x. So we've got y equals 25 times 8 plus 40. And that equals 200 plus 40, which is $240 for 8 hours of service. Number 7, write the equation of the line and slope-intercept form of a line that passes through these 2 points. So again, we'll calculate slope. y2 minus y1, 4 minus a minus 5 is 4 plus 5, over x2 minus x1 And we've got a 9 over negative 3, and that simplifies to be negative 3. So now we can write our equation in point slope form. I'm going to use the first point, and of course, the given slope, or my calculated slope, y minus a negative 5 equals negative 3 times x minus 1. So really that becomes plus 5. To get this into slope-intercept form, I'll need to distribute. So y plus 5 equals negative 3x plus 3. And now we can subtract 5 to both sides, and we get y equals negative 3x minus 2. And that's our final answer in slope-intercept form. Number 8, write an equation in standard form for a line that passes through negative 7, 0 and 0, 6. I would actually really go ahead and calculate my slope. Don't do shortcuts. It'll only take you a second. M equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. If you don't take your time, you might get the sign wrong. The numerator is a negative 6, the denominator is a negative 7, and that simplifies to a positive 6 over 7. Well, now let's get this into point slope form. I'll use this point. Doesn't matter, I could choose either one. So y minus 6 equals 6 over 7 times x minus 0. And now we can distribute, and we get y minus 6 equals 6 over 7x. We can add 6 to both sides, and we get y equals 6 over 7x plus 6. If they had asked for slope-intercept form, we would be done. But now we need to get my x value to the other side, so I will subtract 6 over 7x to both sides. When I do, I've got a negative 6 over 7x plus my y equals 6. These days we are allowed to have negatives for our coefficient in front of x, but we're still not allowed to have fractions. To clear that fraction, I'm going to multiply both sides by the denominator, which is 7. And when I do, I get a negative 6x plus 7y equals 42. If you had given me the equation positive 6x minus 7y equals negative 42, I would accept that as well. But that is no longer preferred or expected. We're going to compare r of x with f of x. Well, we've got three differences here. Because it's negative, the first thing I know is that r of x is reflected across the y-axis. Because of the 2 in front of the x, the slope is 2. I know that the graph of r of x will be vertically stretched. It'll be steeper. It is preferred that you use the verbiage vertically stretched. The third difference is because of our y-intercept of negative 1. I know that the graph of r of x is translated or shifted, translated down 1 unit. Number 10, compare p of x with f of x. Two differences this time. Because of the 1/3, we know that this graph is vertically shrunk. It's less steep. We also know that this graph is shifted up 5 units. Shifted or translated. Up 5. Finally, number 11, compare r of x with g of x. Well, there's only one difference. This one's negative for the slope and that one's positive. So the only difference is it is reflected across the y-axis. We're going to use this information for number 12 and 13. A caterer charges a base fee of $300 plus $40 per person. For number 12, we're going to write the equation that represents the cost C of serving P people. So the cost is found by charging $40 per person plus that one-time fee of $300. Number 13, another caterer charges a base fee that is $50 more and a per person charge that is $2 less. We'll write the new equation that represents the cost. So cost, well, $2 less on our slope is $38 per person, but our one-time fee, our base fee, has gone up $50, so it's at $350. Find the x and y intercepts of the following function. That's when you think of this t-chart. And it reminds me that at first I'm going to plug in 0 for y to find the x-intercept. So when I plug in for 0 for y, I get 7x equals 15. Divide both sides by 7, and x equals 15 over 7 is fine. Leave it. I know it's a decimal about 2.14, but this answer is exact, and the 2.14 is an estimation. Now to find the y-intercept, we will plug in 0 for x. When we do, be careful, you don't get 3y equals 15. You get negative 3y equals 15. Divide both sides by negative 3. And we see that y is negative 5 when we plug in 0 for x. So our x-intercept is 15 over 7, and our y-intercept is negative 5. Number 15, we're going to graph this function. It's got a y-intercept down at negative 3. Our slope is 1/4, which means we will rise 1 and run forward 1, 2, 3, 4. I could also fall 1 as long as I go backwards 1, 2, 3, 4. And I know that's valid because my 3 points are in line. I'm not done graphing until I connect with a straight edge and add arrows, because that function goes on forever. Number 16, write an equation in point-slope form for a line that includes the origin and the point negative 8, 4. Well, the origin is at 0, 0. To get the slope, we could quickly use the slope formula. 4 minus 0 over negative 8 minus 0. But because this is a direct variation, it goes through the origin, my slope is really just my y over my x, which is a negative 1/2. And now we'll write the equation. We do know our slope. We also know our y-intercept is 0. So the equation in slope-intercept form is y equals negative 1/2 x. But now I just noticed they don't want slope-intercept form. They want point slope. So y, let's use this point here. Y minus 4 equals our slope of negative 1/2 times x minus a minus 8, which is x plus 8. That's it. Number 17, Angela bikes at a speed of 7 miles per hour to a park that is 15 miles away. Write an equation that shows the distance d away from the park that she is after h hours. So her distance is a function of the number of hours. She's starting off 15 miles away, and every hour that she bikes takes away 7 miles. And that's our equation. In part B, Angela has found a new park that's 2 miles closer. write an equation to represent the new situation. What we are changing is our y-intercept. It's 2 miles closer. So now our distance is a function of being 13 miles away from the park to start. We haven't told that she's going any faster, so she's still traveling 7 miles per hour. And that's the difference. Well, this one's also numbered 17. We've got the graphs of f of x and g of x shown. For part A, they want us to write the equations in slope-intercept form for both of them. So let's do f of x first. Well, let's see. What's our slope? Clearly it's negative. We're heading downhill. When we rise 1, we are running forward 1, 2, 3. Or excuse me, running backwards 3. So our slope is a negative 1/3. But double check your picture. This line looks downhill. That slope better be negative. So f of x equals negative 1/3 x, and our y-intercept is 0. I could write a plus 0, but it's better to not. And that's the equation in slope-intercept form. Now for g of x. Well, notice the slope is the same. Rise 1, run backward 3. So our slope is still negative 1/3 x. But we do have a y-intercept at negative 3. For part B, we're going to describe the parameter that is left unchanged. The thing that's unchanged is the slope. It's still a negative 1/3. Number 18, Jasmine is a mechanic. The equation A equals 65H plus 25 represents her charge in dollars to work on American cars for H hours. For foreign cars, she charges the same one-time fee, but a differently hourly rate. She charges $250 in total for 3 hours on a foreign car. They want us to write the equation in slope-intercept form of the total charge F to work on foreign cars for H hours. So the total charge for foreign cars is equal to, and we want slope-intercept form, we've got to go back to the information given about American cars. American cars is $65 per hour plus $25 just to get started without working any hours. Notice for foreign cars, she charges the same one-time fee. That means for foreign cars, my B is still equal to 25. It's my M that's going to change. I don't know M, but I do have an ordered pair. 3 hours gets paired up with $250. So in Y equals MX plus B, let's plug in our X, our Y, and our B. This time we're going to solve for M. A little bit different. So for Y, I'll plug in 250, and that's going to equal, my slope is 25, the X value is 3, and let's solve for B. Oh, I made a mistake. Let me pause. It's the B that we know. It's not M. We're going to have to call M the letter M, but for B, I can plug in the number 25. It still doesn't want to work. Okay, we definitely need to pause. Okay, so let's plug in the 25 for B. Well, to get M alone, I could subtract 25 to both sides, and when I do, I get 225 equals 3M, and then I can divide both sides by 3, and I discover that M equals 75. So I've got M. I remember B is the same for American cars as it is for foreign cars, so I can write my equation. The charge for foreign cars is equal to 75 times X plus 25. Notice we have the same B, but we have a new slope. How are the two functions alike and how are they different? Well, they both have the same initial charge of $25. So the B's, the y-intercepts are the same. They're $25. But the difference is the slope, the hourly rate. The M's are different. They have different slopes. One has an hourly rate of 75 and the other one is only 65.